Hey guys, I think we are live. Just going to give it another 60 seconds because everybody rolls into these webinars literally a minute late. So thank you to those who've joined so far. Just looking through the names, I see some familiar faces out there. Hope you've all had a good day so far. Nearly Friday. All I've got left is some work and an early evening yoga class. Right, give it another 30 seconds and then we're going to get going. And to those of you who are in now, I've got a couple of really good examples of people who just do SEO really well. And I'm not talking about huge businesses with big teams. I'm talking about, sometimes, more often than not, small businesses, but who actually go through this process that I'm going to take you through now. So I've got some more people coming in. Again, I see we've got people from Asia Pacific as always. I'm waiting for some others who said they were going to attend, who I saw yesterday. So last few numbers to come in. We've got a good turnout today. Ryan, Happy New Year to you, my friend. Hopefully I get to see you, maybe in Jakarta later this year. It's been a while. Okay, right, 32 minutes past. I think let's get going. So as you can see from the title of this webinar, again, thanks for showing up. I'm Jon Earnshaw. I'm the Chief Product Evangelist at Datametrics. And today I'm going to be talking about how you can boost your search strategy in 2022, whether you started or not, whether you've got a strategy or not. This is going to be a really great place to begin. And everything I'm going to talk about today, I can speak about honestly because I've seen it working with a multitude of clients. Okay, so today for this session, this relatively short session, I'm going to base the sections on the Pi flywheel. And I'm going to do that for one reason, simply because it works. There are 4 stages here that we need to follow. We've got research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. I haven't got time to go into huge detail on each section, but I guarantee, I literally guarantee that if you just follow one of the steps from each of these sessions, you will see a noticeable increase in the performance of your content, your traffic, and your revenue. Even if you just take one of those steps from, say, research, it's going to make a difference. So let's start with research. And as we go, if you have any questions, as Ryan's doing there, please just drop those into the Q&A. Last time I was saying use the chat. I think that's just for organizers. So if you've got a question, drop it in there. And I'm going to offer somebody at some stage through this session a free 1-hour session on contextual optimization, a small part of this. So please hang in there. Right, research. If you work in SEO, like me, you're going to get asked all the time. And literally I do. When somebody says, what do you do? I normally make up something. Yeah, I'm an astronaut or something like that. But as soon as you mention SEO, once they ask, well, what is that? You tell them what you do. You always get the same response. Hey, I've got a great idea. I've got this website. How do I get onto page 1? How do I do this? How do I get found? How do I get into Google? You always get those questions. Now, if you're working for a business, you're probably going to get the same questions as well. But whenever anybody asks me how to optimize something, whether it's a website, a piece of content, a page, an image, a video, my response is always the same. Research and begin with the landscape. And when it comes to this first phase or this first stage in the flywheel, the research phase, when it comes to content strategy, when it comes to SEO, it's absolutely fundamental. I was having a talk with one of my clients earlier today, and a lot of what I was saying is about you've got to do the research, you've got to look at the SERP landscape. Okay, this is really, really fundamental. Whether the question is, How do I optimize my facets? What are the rules in my case for pagination? What keywords should I optimize? What subcategories do I need to build out? How do I link together my ecosystem? The answer is always the same. You begin with research. And I always lump 1 and 2 together. The 4 things we research are audience and the search landscape. These 2 are inextricably connected because the audience creates the SERP. Without the audience and a searcher, there is no SERP landscape. And the SERP, as we know, is a reflection of audience or searcher intent. These 2 coexist. So when we do our research into the audience at the same time we are researching into the search landscape or the SERP landscape, I would not begin anything without those 2 steps. We also crucially need to look at the competitor landscape and our existing content ecosystem. And this first phase of the flywheel, this research phase, I'm going to spend more time on today and perhaps less time on the other areas, but I'm going to cover more on those other areas in future webinars. And I'm planning on having many more webinars this year. And again, if you hold on till the end, I've got some really exciting news about Pi and about some new developments coming to the platform in the next couple of weeks or so. So please stay until the end. Okay, research. Getting inside the mind of your customer, your audience, your reader. A great place to start is simply with Google. Okay, Google is great if you're just looking for one keyword, in this case, vegan recipes. If you're looking at a larger collection of keywords or keyword ideas, then you're going to need something like the SERP Radar within Pi to do that. But for now, let's just imagine I'm going to be creating content around vegan food and vegan diets, etc. Why do I start here? Why do I start with a Google search? Because this is the landscape you're trying to get into. This is where you can learn as much about your audience as about your competitors. And what sort of things can we learn? And if you've been to my webinars before, you know exactly what I'm going to say. I see some latecomers have come in. You haven't missed much, guys. Just hang in there. Well, primarily, we've got these 2 features within Google. And I keep coming back to people also ask, what better way of getting inside the mind of your audience? And this is a search for vegan foods and vegan recipes. And we can see the people also ask there. And I have lost count of the number of clients who I have seen gain amazing success. And I'm talking small businesses outperforming big businesses because they use this data, the questions that Google believes your audience have on their minds when they are searching for the keywords that I type in. Absolutely critical. And then we've got related searches. Pi extracts all this data. And this is like bonus material. So when we're looking for vegan recipes, vegan dishes, and vegan food, what are the related searches? These are really interesting. When we take the highlighted terms that Google's highlighted, what are people interested in? What are they also searching for? When it comes to vegan food, I want the most popular. It's got to be for beginners. Oh, it's got to be for weight loss. Oh, and I'm lazy, but I want to impress. But it's got to be easy. And I want to throw in a dessert as well. And finally, it's a vegan recipe for 2. Here we can actually start to build out this narrative. And I guarantee if we take this, if we take these questions that people are also searching for and we build out content of a narrative around that, we are going to get onto a very high position in the search results. Google is giving us so much, but so often we choose to ignore it because we just launch out our content based on what we've got. Let's continue to get inside the mind of our audience by stepping outside the world of our own data sets. Data discovery. And if you haven't used it in Pi, I suggest you get on and use it. It's so much more powerful than keyword research. Keyword research is a thing of the past. Here we're looking at features, we're looking at trends, we can learn when to prioritize. And what can we tell from this data based on a single seed idea of vegan food, we know people have questions that we have to answer. We know they want video. We can build a narrative for the video as we've just seen. We know images are important, but not all of the time. When are they important? And we know top stories right now are really hot. They weren't before Christmas. This trend data is absolutely vital. So already in this first part of the flywheel, I'm starting to get an idea, not just what to talk about, but how to talk about it. So we zoom right down now with the SERP matrix to the keyword vegan diet. The first thing I see, the first thing I learn is that we have an entirely informational landscape. So if I'm creating content about a vegan diet, it's no good selling cookbooks. I've got to have informational content to match intent. What questions do I want to answer with this data? Is there an answer card? Yeah. Is it going to grow? Who owns it? Should I take it? Can I make it clickable? That's a whole other story. Forget the zero-click argument. You can make answer cards clickable if you want. If video increases, okay, what do I need to do about that? Images, they're not a priority, but top stories are. They're really standing out. So a huge number of questions to which I can answer, and then we can drill down to intent as we step back to look at the SERP radar. And this is such a great example of why intent is SERP-led and not keyword-led. We take 100 searches around vegetarian diet and recipes and 100 searches around meat-free diet and recipes, as vegetarian and meat-free. If you'd have asked me before I did this, I'd say they're pretty much synonymous. But when it comes to the SERP, they are not. The landscape is different. What we can see here are the different features that return over a 30-day period for each of these 100 sets of keyword searches. There are more questions around meat-free. There are more answer cards. Vegetarian on the left is a much more established category. We can tell this because it's represented by that established carousel that's been around for a few years now, and there are fewer questions. People don't have so many questions on their mind, but they do with meat-free. So if I want to get my meat-free as opposed to vegetarian content to the top of the search results, in particular Google, I need to follow that PPA. I need to chase those answer cards. It's a different story for vegetarian. I need to go after those carousels, those recipe cards there. Synonymous, not when you come to look at it. And then when it comes to research, we have to look at our competitors. And looking at your competitors is so important. You can't begin a content strategy without seeing who else out there now owns the real estate that I'm chasing. And the power of the insight really comes from breaking down performance by category and subcategory, because as we've seen, intent can differ tremendously between subcategory landscapes. So what we can start to see here are the elements in common with good performance when it comes to competitor content. You can learn so much, and I have so many conversations with clients about why their competitors are doing better or doing worse. So we cannot forget that as part of our research. And then finally, the final strand when it comes to research is our ecosystem. And this is really critical. Too many people are taking content, and everybody, I talked about this in the office yesterday, so you've all heard it before, but too many people are just creating content and SEOing it, optimizing it, URL, title, header 1, meta description, and publishing it, and off we go. But if we don't analyze our ecosystem and answer this question, it can all go horribly wrong. Think of the Daily Mail. I wonder why the Daily Mail was so badly penalized in the algo update from May last year when they lost all their visibility. I mean, that's a whole other story. But what we have to ask, the vital question before we publish, what content do we already have within our ecosystem that is either complementary and or potentially conflicting? Who does this well? Who asks that question? I'm just going to look to see if I can pick on anyone in the audience. Well, not in the audience. There's a few there. I'll tell you what, somebody who's not there. Wait till I see her. Vogue magazine do it brilliantly. Look at their ecosystem before they publish. Who doesn't do it? I'll tell you who doesn't do it. Tell you who doesn't do it. Jamie Oliver. Jamie Oliver's website gets a lot of good visibility. Okay, there is no doubt about it. It's authoritative, performs really well. This is a chart showing the performance of jamieoliver.com for healthy pizza recipes. Now, we all love pizza. I love pizza more than I can describe. I absolutely love it. But of course, in January and February, you know, we're all trying to get in great shape. So I'm looking for healthy pizza recipes. This website had some content. It's sitting on page 3. So what does they do? What does he do? I'm sure he didn't do it, but what did they do? They publish some content on the 1st of January. Hey, let's get a boost. Let's publish some more content on this subject. Away we go. We're going to do well. But no, they didn't. Look what happened on the 1st of January, literally when the content was published. They went from page 3 to outside top 100, up and down like that. You've all seen this before. It's classic internal conflict that simply arises because I haven't asked the question before I published, what content do I already have that might conflict? That will happen to have been made a year ago, 2 years ago. It simply doesn't matter. If that content's in your ecosystem and you don't make it clear to Google when or which piece of content you want to be the trophy, this is not about canonical tags. This is more than that. This is about relationships between content. If you don't decide, Google will decide, and you will go the same way as Jamie Oliver. Can it be fixed? Absolutely. Is it easy? Yeah. How do you do it? You use data and you do that research within your ecosystem. So having gone through that first phase of the flywheel, we move on to planning. And again, I haven't got a huge amount of time for planning, but there are 3 areas that I really want to cover. Okay, that targeting of opportunity content. What are we going to do in January? How are we going to make more money? How are we going to drive more people to our website? And if I can prove that there is money sitting here on the table that we are losing out on, there's my business case. And I simply then have to decide on my SERP doorway. Let's get back to food. Sainsbury's. Okay, what are we looking at here? We're looking at Sainsbury's estimated organic traffic for a small part of their ecosystem. Don't worry about the numbers. What's important here is that since the middle of last year, Sainsbury's, good on them, good on Sainsbury's SEO team, have the rest of the day off. They started to see big increases in traffic, in visibility for food cupboard, and also for fresh food. So we think that's great. Their other categories and subcategories are starting to increase as well. But one thing is clear. Even big sites like this have far more content sitting on page 2 and 3 than they have on page 1 generating traffic. Now, of course, that content can still be found once you land on the website, depending on how well it's structured and how clear those doorways are. But wouldn't a SERP doorway be a nice thing to have for the rest of that content? Yeah, absolutely. So let's categorize. What's it worth? Well, it's obvious to see. And again, this is just a small part of their content ecosystem based upon a couple of thousand keywords. Their actual content ecosystem is worth so much more. But in red there, we're looking, the red outweighs the dark blue hugely. This is content sitting on page 2 and 3 for food cupboard and fresh food. We can, if we match this to our entire ecosystem, put a monetary value on this by categorizing it and then discovering why it's not performing well, prioritizing. We can build a business case to optimize it. It's as simple as that. And it should be simple. All of this should be simple. And the problem with SEO is sometimes we're looking for complex answers to things that are relatively easy to fix. And when it comes to understanding what content we need to work on, of course, we go back to the SERP. And we have to think about planning those SERP doorways. And here, we're searching for healthy lunch ideas. What a beautiful SERP we see there on the right-hand side. It's really rich with people also asking recipe cards. And sometimes, if I was actually creating healthy lunch ideas and some nice long-form content, you have to look at the SERP landscape and ask yourself the question, does my content really belong? And sometimes you need to have that painful conversation with yourself. Actually, no. My content looks nothing like what's being returned here. You may start to realize that you need more or less content, images, a different narrative, reflecting a different type of intent, different style. Do you need reviews? Do you need schema, etc.? Talking of reviews, if you are reviewing products, as so many people are these days, are you following Google's guidelines to the letter post the December product review update? It's had such a big impact on so many people. Above all, you have to match intent. So we've researched. We've got some great ideas. We know what we're going to make and into what form. We've planned it. We've identified existing opportunity. We come on now to implementation. And I've got to say it. I've already said it today. SEO doesn't need to be complicated. And the reason why I'm talking, the reason why I'm saying it is I see so many talks and so many conferences with the latest thing that you need to understand and how to optimize a certain type of JavaScript for a certain type of loading, canonicalization, pagination, I don't know, Core Web Vitals. It's not worth doing any of that unless you get the basics right. And when I say the basics right, we start to bring it all together, everything we've done from getting inside the mind of our audience, doing that research on the landscape, our audience, our competitors, our ecosystem. We optimize in the context of our ecosystem, we publish, and we don't abandon, we curate. And if this seems mysterious, and there is anybody out there who wants to have a 30-minute, 1-hour session on how this works in reality, then just reach out to me after this or drop something in the questions and I'll be more than happy to take you through it. I've seen it work so well with so many businesses, and yet it's so simple. Then, having done all of that, we move into this phase of evaluation. How have I done? Have all of our efforts been worthwhile? And this phase is so often overlooked, but it's so essential to evaluate the outcome of those efforts. And on the next slide, I want to give a shout out to, are they here? Are they here? I'm just looking through the people. I don't know, but guys in Ohio, you know who you are. An amazing job. This next slide. Oh, Peter has raised a hand. Peter, do you have a question? Do you want to drop it into the chat or into the questions? I'm not sure how we work that. I'll tell you what, I will let Holly deal with that. I'll come back to that, Peter. Let's get back to the results of simply some great SEO efforts from the guys at Leaf Home in Ohio, in the US, who have done their research. They've done their planning. They implement. Now they can evaluate. Now they can go back in and tweak and actually push things up further. Highly competitive landscape, super competitive landscape. in the US SERP. And here we can see the results of a business, not a huge, but yeah, reasonable sized business, who understands the SERP landscape, who understands intent, who's utilizing people also ask. They are owning answer cards and they are building traffic. But at this stage, so important to evaluate not just our performance like that, but let's evaluate ways in which we can improve. We've got the SERP matrix there. We've got a business there on the right who has some classic links halfway down page one. Brilliant, we're on page one, but could we be doing more? Could we actually open more doorways into our world? And if you don't know what that's about, and you don't believe that you can have 2, 3, or even 4, you can have an answer card, a classic link, a video and images. If you don't believe that's possible, check out my previous webinar where I show you exactly how that can be done. So evaluate in the context of the landscape and evaluate in the context of a value perspective. Okay, actually, no, this one, somebody switched 2 of my slides around. That's absolutely fine. Jose, nice work. So what are we doing here? Evaluate in the context of your competitors. Who's this? This is the independent. The independent, when it comes to writing product reviews, have done phenomenally well. Now, if you take the competitors off there, you just have the independent, you don't really know how well they've done. But when you put that against a backdrop of competition and algorithmic updates and the rest of the SERP, you can see they have done phenomenally well simply by following those guidelines. Of course, they get their core web vitals sorted. They're brilliant at EAT as well. Love them or hate them, you've got to take your hats off to a great job here. Now, that was no accident. Actually, Jose, I'm blaming you for the wrong thing. I think it was me that got these mixed up. Evaluate from the value perspective. This is Matalan. Matalan actually do pretty well. But what happened in July? This is their share of voice, where they've gone from a rank of 5 to a rank of 18. That's a sizable drop. If you were just to look at overall visibility, you wouldn't see such a big drop. But when we start to apply a sense of value to visibility, as we do here with share of voice by taking into consideration search volume, competition, etc., we can see that the actual value of the content they have sitting on page one is worth far less than it was, even though their visibility might look fine. The question we have to ask, are we focusing our efforts in the right place? Am I focusing on the right content? And finally, evaluation, before I spend 2 minutes on telling you the exciting news just around the corner. It's good to share. This is a classic insight. Share the good, share the bad, but share insights within the platform. And here's an example of when facets go wrong, when facets become exposed. This is just one search term here, but that was spotted, the insight was saved, and then it can get looked at and gets fixed, not just for one piece of content here, but for hundreds of pieces of content. And we go from being on page one to dropping off and getting back on as quickly as possible, thanks to sharing, thanks to evaluating what's going on. So 2022, last 2 minutes. Okay, we've got in the next couple of weeks something really exciting coming to Pi. This is, thanks to the guys at Twilio, an internal link analysis tool. We've wanted these, or one of these, for so long now, but it's partnering with the right people to get the right insight into the platform. So what's it for? Well, if you're looking to create new internal links, optimize or fix existing ones, this is perfect. Okay, it's going to pull in data from Search Console, and that will make contextual optimization and content curation so much easier. Next, right around the corner, of course, you can see people also ask, and you can go back in time and look at that through the matrix, but we are making this super easy to pull out of the platform for those terms and the groups of terms within the workspaces that you care about. This is really going to help shape content strategy. So we've listened and we've delivered. And then in the next couple of months, really exciting news, we've got the Pi Academy. Newly launched, right around the corner, an environment in which you can actually learn not only how to use Pi, become a power user and get the most out of it, but you can learn about SEO as well. All the kind of stuff we talk about in the webinars and all of the training we're doing, that's going to go into the Academy. So we are super excited about sharing that knowledge. And while all of this is happening, we've been working really hard in the background. We've been getting feedback from you guys, our clients, listening to requests, running workshops, getting some brilliant ideas in order to bring you later this year the world's best SEO dashboard. And it's going to be phenomenal. And I've seen some of the mock-ups and some of the scamps, and this is going to be an absolute game changer. You know, in fact, I'm not going to say any more about it, but we will reveal more as time goes on. But we've really listened. We've worked super hard, and there's some exciting work going on here. And the final thing, before I say thanks for watching, for those of you who remember 2 years ago, before the pandemic, we had a live event, SEO in a Shed event. It was at Bounce in London on Farringdon, down by Farringdon, a phenomenal success. Hundreds of people. There was ping pong, drinks, SEO talk, non-SEO talk late into the night. Okay, 17th of March, save the date. We've got a live event coming up at the Kingpin Suite in London, which is 10 minutes south of King's Cross. It's pretty much due south. It's going to be really exciting. It's going to be like the Bounce event, but even better. So 17th of March, save the date. That just leaves me time to say thank you so much for watching. It's great to see so many people here, and enjoy the rest of your day, and see you for another SEO in the Shed very soon. Thanks, guys.